Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. Well, today we're going to do something a little bit different. So we're going to have a play with our Eutalloy torch that we picked up the other week. So we brought this totally unknown condition, sight unseen, at an auction. The price was right, so I thought I'd take a gamble on it. But it does have a few issues, as I found out. I'll explain later in the video. In here is a little rubber powder control valve, and that needs to be replaced, but we can't get one here in Australia. They're unavailable. It's an obsolete part, so I'm hoping I can get hold of someone over in the States, and they might be able to help me track one down over there at a major Eutalloy agent. So anyway, well, that's enough of me. So let's head over to the welding bench and we'll get our torch coupled up to the oxy, and we'll have a look at our broken part we're going to repair. So the repair we've got to do is on this part here. This is off one of my lathes, and what this is a support for the bar that runs underneath the lead screw, and the bar operates the carriage stops on the lathe. So as you can see, it's broken. It's had a bump at some stage, so it was like this when I brought the lathe. So what we're going to do is repair it. So we're going to need a jig to hold it in the correct position, so we don't lose our centre distance between where the bar sits and where the bracket mounts up to the lathe. So I've knocked up this ugly bracket. So this is the ugliest welding fixture on the planet, but it will serve our purpose well. So we'll get the part mounted up in it, and then we'll V it out ready for weld prep. Okay, so we'll get all this lot together. So it's machined underneath on the underside, so everything's all held nice and square. We'll just sit that loosely in position there, and then our mating part sits on here. We just bring them together. And we can feel it, we can feel on the crack that we are holding in the right location. And give him a nip down. Still holding our thumb pressure on here, and we'll put a clamp quite tight on here like that. Now I should probably put a support under there, which I might do that. Okay, so we're in location. Our gap's completely closed up around our crack. So now what we can do is V out and prep our crack. What I might actually do is just with the MIG, I know it's cast iron, I'll just put a couple of tacks on here just to help key it in a little bit better. Okay, so we've got a couple of good tacks on either side. I know it's not the correct method, but it may just help key it in and just keep it in position a bit more. So what we're going to do now is we'll V this crack out, and then we'll fire up the Eutalloy torch and get our crack repaired. don't think the camera will pick it up, but I'll show you a close-up of trying to follow this crack. Okay, that's the crack running. It's a piece of the crack running through there. It's very difficult to pick up. The easiest way is if I ran the oxy torch along now, we might get a defined crack, something that shows up a bit clearer. So we're just going to put a bit of gentle heat in here, and hopefully it'll give us a better idea where the edge of the crack is. I'm starting to lose it a bit there. You can just see a couple of spots, it's hard to see it all. Okay, that's... Okay, I'll swing you around so you can see what I see, but now I've got a definite idea now where to grind. Okay, we can see now, you see the edge of our crack running down there, comes up here, and then along the bottom corner there, where that dark line is. So that's the edge of our crack. So I think we'll continue taking this out, but I'm going to swap over to the Dremel now. Okay, so I think we'll go for something a bit more heavy duty than the Dremel. The old electric die grinder. So I can vaguely see portions of the crack, so I'll just give that a bit more heat to make sure we are actually following the right track. Okay, we're right on it, so I'll swing you down and give you a look at what I can see. It's hard for this camera to focus, so there's remnants of it there, and it runs across there, through there. Just see that very fine black line. So we'll keep going on that path until we start to break through in a few spots to the other side. So we've got our whole groove all cleaned up now. A couple of spots got a bit thin, so we've just got a copper backing plate in there just to back them up, and we've cleaned up all around the surrounding area, even at the sides where we did with the grinder. We've dusted over that with the rotary burr, and that's just the way I've been taught not to weld on a ground finish on cast iron, and I think aluminium's the same. It's main reason, as far as I'm aware of, it's so you don't get impurities from the grinding wheel contaminating the weld. So that's given us a good clean area to weld. So we'll get the Eutectic torch cranked up now, and we'll start filling this in. Okay, so we'll just give you a quick overview of the torch that I picked up. So it has a partial bit of a booklet with it. So it just has a bit of a breakdown in there on the cleaning process, what parts you pull apart, which are there, and what parts you don't pull apart, which is the powder feed valve. You never touch that one. Now my torch has had a problem. I've just done a temporary fix on it, and there was a problem in the powder feed valve, and that's just a rubber valve with a little pinhole through it and a diaphragm on either side of the pinhole, and the plunger operates off the end of the trigger and squeezes the diaphragm shut, which squeezes shut the pinhole and stops the flow of powder coming down and out the nozzle of the torch. But I've done a temporary repair on that. Now I'm going to have to try and chase one up from the USA because we can't get them here in Australia. So hopefully it'll hold out for this job. And yeah, the three other parts there, just the gas mixer, the aspirator, and the oxygen injector, you pull those apart just for cleaning. So there's a bit of a parts list on the back, so it was handy getting this booklet with the torch kit. Now these they don't pop up very often over here because they are quite old. So there's your torch. So the mixer is basically similar to your standard oxy mixer, very similar. Of course your powder bottle, there's a bayonet fitting which goes on the top there, a bit of a heat shield, and your trigger to allow the powder through. So you crank the torch up, you get your part to a dull red, and what you want to do then, because there's issues with oxidization, you want to waft a quick bit of powder over your area you're going to weld as soon as you've reached that dull red temperature, and that will help seal the surface of the part you're welding against oxidization. So yeah, and the trigger to allow the powder through. So we'll get the torch fired up and we'll see how she goes. Okay, to mount the powder into the torch, just take the lid off the powder, invert the torch upside down, and find the bayonet spot. It's just a small twist and she's in. Okay, so we'll give it some preheat. So we'll let that cool down. We'll wrap that up in a welding blanket. And we'll have a look at it when it cools down. So once your welding's complete, all you need to do is invert the torch, give it a couple of taps, unscrew the bottle, and then what you want to do then is put the tip just on a welding glove, open up your oxygen, and have a look just what comes out here. Just the little puff of powder comes out, and that's all you normally would do to clean your torch. And then keep the lid on the powder, keep them in a, make sure they don't hang around in a damp place because they'll start to solidify a little bit. They've got to be kept in a warm place. Anyway, we'll go and have a look at our part once it's cooled down. We'll just try a different powder. This is just a bit of 50x6 flat bar. So we'll just do a run along the edge there. So this is 10112. This is a non-machinable, it's a very hard powder for hard wearing surfaces. So I'll give this one a crack. So we'll run a file over that. You'll see how hard this stuff is. File just skates off it. So that's a very high wearing compound, that one. So there, yeah, that's the 10112. This is a very light coating we've put on there. Well, okay, we've released it from our jig that was to hold it together. It's not too bad. You can see a little bit of where it's got a bit warm up here. Now all that's due to having to run the torch at higher pressures than what I should be running it at for the size nozzle we are using. Now I've had to do that because inside this section of the torch just here is the spray control valve, and had to do that temporary repair as we mentioned before. I mean, it is working, but I do have to run the torch at higher pressures for it to be a bit more effective, so that's a bit unfortunate. So yeah, we will be tracking one of those down from the USA because they're not available here in Australia. So what we'll do now, we turn the part over, we'll peel off our copper backing strip, and we'll just back grind till we get some clean material. So we'll be grinding into our spray from this side, and we'll just do a run along the back, and there's a little bit to touch up on the corners there, and I think we'll just do a run just to tidy this top bit up over here. So let's get set back up. So this is with our copper backing strip removed. So you can see this section there, it's absolutely perfect, but the copper is joined to, stuck to the copper up here. So yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. If it was all like that, we wouldn't do anything with it. So we'll go as we said, and we'll grind this out, we'll do the other run. But yeah, here it's absolutely perfect. So we've background the underside of the part, which has all come up nice and clean, no inclusions or anything, any carry on. So we'll get the torch fired up and fill this slot in. Okay, we'll let that cool off and I'll get this wrapped up in the welding blanket. Well, that's the back of the part, what we've just done. A few little googleberries on there, but that's come out rather well considering the torch was playing up. Still a bit warm to touch, and our other area, that's fine. So I'll get this cleaned up and bring you back. Well, after a quick clean up with the rotary burr, she's come up very well. So yeah, the spray is a nickel alloy. I just tried to blend that in with the rotary burr as best I can to its original shape. So there you have it. Ready to go back in the service. Okay, we got through that okay, so our part came out very well in the end, very happy with it. So the powder we used was a nickel alloy powder, and absolutely brilliant for build-ups and welding cast iron, such as this part off my lathe, other lathe that you guys haven't seen yet. So now with the Eutalloy torch, and of course it's powder, these can be used for, depending on which powder you use. If you want to do like a hard non-wearable build-up on thinner section parts or whatever, absolutely brilliant for that. Welding small cast iron things. When it comes to welding cast iron, you've got to make your own decision, because as you know, there's three major ways which we commonly do cast, which is bronze, cast iron rods, and this is the other way. So it's like horses for courses. They all have their best applications. So anyway, our part came out well. So what we'll do is once I get this spray powder control valve sorted out, we'll move on. We'll do a couple of armatures and see how it goes with that. So anyway, thanks for watching and putting up with it. Cheers.